Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Musings by Nikki. It is that time of month again when we are going to do the 5 on a Dime challenge. This is a project that was created by, or challenge that was created by Gina at Firefly Studio 67. And you probably all know about her because she's fantastic. And there are a couple of other ladies that participate with this. I, of course, will have all the links below for all of their channels and their 5 on a Dime take on the same project. And this is how the challenge works. Every month, one of us decides on 5 like stash busting or kind of basic craft type of supplies that most of us should have. Now, mind you, we don't all live in America. We don't all live in Europe. So we're all over the place. So these are 5 like basic things that we should be able to get our hands on in some fashion. And one of us comes up with 5 things, and then we all do a project with those using at least those 5 things, but I add in a few extra little bits and things to accomplish what I'm going for. But making those 5 things kind of the basis of our project. And then we film these videos to show you guys some fun ideas for things. And last month was awesome. There were some beautiful projects made by some crafty ladies, and one of the most amazing parts of it is to see how you can take 5 things and how different people, their take on 5 things is just, it's incredible how different you can make those 5 things. It just shows the versatility of some of your basic pieces of stuff. It also gives you some ideas. It certainly gave me ideas. Their work gave me ideas to include in my work. So this month, our list is a book page. So I've chosen this big page from a dictionary. This is just the old dictionary page. Fabric. I chose a scrap and kind of a long strip of this really cool, beautiful fabric that I have that, I don't know, I think it's from like Hobby Lobby or, you know, wherever. And it's been coffee stained. Washi tape. So I pulled out these 2, a big, thick, wide, like vintagey one, and then this black skinny one that was probably from the like super cheap, you know, 25-cent bin at Michael's or something. Paper scraps. I literally, you guys, just went into my paper scrap bin and like did this and stuck my hand underneath and pinched and then pulled out like the top chunk of paper scraps. And that is what I have used in this. So in that pile of paper scraps were some little disc embellishment things, some little labels from Graphics Fairy, and then a whole bunch of, some of my rip strips, and then a whole bunch of like offcuts from things or torn pieces of things. So that's what's in my, so those are my paper scraps that I'm using, which is, if you've been doing this even for like even just 2 weeks, if this is your first journal, you will have paper scraps. It is inevitable. And if you're like most of us, you keep them and then you just don't know what to do with them. You try to use them, and like Gail Agostinelli made me laugh so hard. She said that her paper scraps were in her drawer and they rubbed together and produced more. I laughed pretty hard at that, Gail. And but it's so true, because every time I go in there, I'm like, geez, I thought I used some. Like, I thought I was really making a dent. Ugh. Anyway, this is another way to use some of those up. And then one mixed media product of your choice. So I chose to go with my Mod Podge mixed media product. And then I'm just going to say that if you do make one of these, or any one of our, if you make mine, or if you make Gina's or Martina's or whatever, if you make any of these, please, if you have Instagram and if you post it, you should hashtag 5 on a Dime challenge, because we love seeing what you guys do with this stuff. It's super fun. And then if you make my particular one, like if you make something like this, or if you use this as inspiration and you want to tag me, it's hashtag Musings by Nikki Adigan, all one word, hashtag Musings by Nikki Adigan, and I'll have these in the description below too. But it's just it's so fun. I love seeing your guys' work. I love seeing how you take one of my ideas or one of my kits or something and use it in your own way. It just makes me giddy and happy. So This is my 5 on a dime challenge project. It is like, at first, before I put these on here and stuff, it kind of reminded me of like a men's trifold wallet, but now it's kind of just a little tiny mini scrappy journal or like notebook kind of thing. So it opens up with the windy guy closure, and so it's the book pages on the outside, which you can't really see because it's covered up with the stuff right now, but the book pages on the outside. The fabric is like the lining on the inside. There is a notebook in here using all kinds of scraps. Look at that, big scraps, little scraps, all kinds of scraps. And then there's just a little collage down here using one of the rip strip pieces that was in my pile of scraps. And then it closes, and there's a pocket here, and then there are, so remember I had those, there were 6 of these little tags, so now you've got those, and you could use those to embellish in here if you wanted to in your little mini journal, as well as you could also use, wait for it, on the back side of this little thing, there is a pocket, and this is where the washi came in. Well, and on the pocket on the inside. And then out of the scrappy paper, I just included some little bits and pieces and tags back here in this little pocket. So there's that one of the embellishments run from the Graphics Fairy. Here's a scrap of this paper. One of the long skinny tags I just turned into like a Hermelinda flip open tag. I cut this down into a tag. I stuck a couple of pieces of rip strip in there, and then here's just another piece that had a really cool coffee stain on it. So I put those pieces back here, and with the thought that you could use these to embellish the inside of your little mini journal. Excuse me guys, I've been up north visiting parents for the week and my voice is a little scratchy. So like you can use these pieces in here to embellish your journal on the inside, add tucks and, you know, flip outs or pockets or whatever with these things, embellishments, and use those to decorate the little mini journal inside. So it's kind of like a tiny little kit, right? And then as you use things, you can refill these pockets up, or you could put your own picture in there, or whatever you wanted to do. So it's kind of a fun little, it would be a great little happy mail, or it'd be great for a pen pal. It's really flat, so it would go into just an envelope pretty quick, you know, pretty easily. So so that's my project, and if you just came to see the project, great, thank you. If you want to see me make one of these, let's do it. So let's see, let's put this over here for now. So let's try to clear up a little space here. And this thing that I wrote on is actually my base for the tag, but I wrote on it because we're going to cover it up. And this was actually in there too. And it must be, it's like, see how it's shiny, that shiny white on one side, and then it's kind of that, I don't know, recycled paper looking on. It looks like it's maybe it was the back of a notebook or something, or maybe a piece of packaging, like, you know. So I cut it in half. So it must be about 4 1/4, and I'm going to guess it's by 11. Yeah, 4 1/4 by 11. So when I cut this would have just been like a regular 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I cut it in half down the middle. So that's this. Then we're going to take the dictionary page and put it on the outside. Now, see how it has these little letters down the side? This one had the letters down the side too, and I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it as the border there. It's kind of cute. So this one has the same, letters down the side. So I'm going to try and get those to be along the fold. And I want them along the short fold. So what I kind of did, in no particular fashion, I think I tried to get it about 4 inches. But you know, this is not precision by any means, because you can really cut your You can, well, and I didn't even really cut. I just ripped my scraps down to fit inside here. It's very rustic. Then you just want to give yourself some space here. So you don't want to fold this over exactly the same right here, because you're going to have some bulk in here, actually on this side. So you want to make sure there's some room so that everything has a little bit of space to fold, right? Because there's some bulk in here, and if they had lined up perfectly, it would have been too tight. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of space here, probably just over 1/4 inch, I'd say. So see that space right there? That just gives us a little bit of extra room for the bulkiness. So then we've got our basic standard piece here with a larger flap, and that's where we're going to put our little pocket and one of the circles, and then we'll put our other circle closure here, and then the windy guy. And then we'll put fabric on the inside, and we're going to cover this outside piece. So you want to fold it first, just so once you get this on here, then it folds up better. And you're not trying to fold. Also, then you know which edge you want this on. So I want this, the letters on this short edge, so you see it on the outside. So, oh look, and this one's gonna have guinea pigs on the outside. All right, and I'm just roughly trimming along the edge here, because once it's glued down, we will, whoopsies, that's okay, that'll get glued down. I forget how delicate these old pages are. Once it's glued down, it will, that little rip will disappear. All right, and then I'm gonna go roughly about, uh-oh, this little helmeted guinea fowl is gonna get cut. Oh my gosh, and there's a guillotine on here too, guys. Oh, this is kind of a fun little page here that we chose. Bye, guinea fowl. But hello, but I think the guillotine will get covered up, sadly. You won't have guinea pigs and guillotine. And oh, this is the hand with all the different music things on it. Oh my gosh, can you see that? This is an old school way of learning music, teaching music. All right, so I'll go there, and we'll cover up guillotine because that's just not quite fun. We'll get the other half of the guinea fowl. I'm going to trim some of this edge off because we don't need that. We'll get some guineas. That'll be fun. And then I'm just going to leave that rough edge there because I know I want to go up to the guinea pigs and cover up the guillotine. And we'll have this cute little bird here and some ornamental trims, and then we'll just cut the rest off. Well, I can cut it down a little bit now. All right. So now these I'm going to brush on with I'm going to glue on with my Mod Podge, and then on the other side is going to be this fabric, and then I'm going to sew around the edges of it. So I'm just I'm gluing this down with the Mod Podge, but I'm not actually like going Mod Podge over the top of it because I don't need it to be like protected or waterproof. It's just gluing down with it. Blah, blah, blah. Let me get those. And then this has already been ripped here and here, which is about, this is why I pulled this one out, because it's about the width of what I was doing. See, look at that. So I want to leave myself just a little allowance there, but I don't need much, just a little to stick out, because I like the way you can see it around the edges here, right? Kind of cool, kind of real rustic-y. So that's what I'm going for, just a little bit of allowance over there, and then that means I just need a little bit of allowance here. So I'm going to snip and rip, And then this is the piece, oh, strings, this is the piece I don't need. So that's gonna go away. And this is, let me get rid of all the strings, or at least as many of the strings as I can right now. So once I get the Mod Podge going, I want all the pieces that I'm going to glue, I want all of them ready to go. So on the outside is gonna be this book page. And I'm gonna get my, this is my gluey Mod Podgey piece of paper here. And a brush. This is just a cheap old brush from Michael's or wherever. And we're just gonna give this a good coat. This is my matte Mod Podge that I love. That is not really matte. Excuse me, guys. I don't know if it was like something that both my daughters, but especially Lizzie, my older one, was really sneezing and coughing a lot, and she had bloodshot eyes. Something up there was bothering her allergies, and I wonder if it's kind of, that was the same way for me, because just kind of an itchy throat and stuff. Hopefully that goes away now that we're back home. We just got home last night. All right, guinea pig side. So now I'm going to try and line this up. This is the only part where I really care about it. Lining up is on this edge. The best I can there. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Push that edge down. All right, now I'm going to, how far over? Oh, let's see. Oh, now I have a decision to make. Do I go, that one has more fun pictures. Sometimes you have to be careful when you're crafting that you don't put things like guillotine, unless you're doing something like, you know, steampunky or Marie Antoinette. And it doesn't matter if you get this over on that side, because we're going to Mod Podge over the top of everything anyway, just to protect it and give it that nice finish. But right now I'm just putting a layer on to now glue this down. And this doesn't even matter so much. I don't need it to line up anywhere because we're going to trim around it. So I want it to be fairly straight-ish. Okay, now before I go ahead and put the rest of the Mod Podge on, I'm going to trim around this way. As we're trimming, or I mean as we're putting the Mod Podge on, we can hit the edges a little too, just to kind of seal it on there. And don't worry if the edges aren't totally glued down, because we're going to stitch around it, or I'm going to. Now if you're not going to stitch around it, which is also perfectly fine, if you're not going to stitch around it, you're going to want to make sure that your edges, like here, like right there, see my corners pulling up a little, you're going to want to make sure that those are all glued down really well if you don't intend to stitch around it. However, since I do, I'm not too worried about it. Now I'm just going to give it a thin coat over the top of everything to protect I love the way it makes old book pages look. This stuff kind of gives it a real cool feel and look. I've done it before where I've used book pages to collage onto things, and it just gives it a really cool look. If you haven't used Mod Podge before, once you get it all on there, I like to go like this and give it some good streaks, because you will see brush marks in. So I like to just try and give it some nice long streaks so you don't see my crazy erratic back and forth. So right here, I am going to shut the camera off and let this dry. You certainly don't need to watch paint dry with me, because then we'll come back and glue this other side on. So I will be back once this is dry. Okay, we're back, and it is mostly dry. I went a little heavy with it over this seam here, so it's mostly dry. It's dry enough that we can work with it. So it has that kind of sheen to it there. It's dry. It feels really cool. It's not matte, right? Obviously fully matte because it's still shiny, but it's pretty good. But I realized, and you guys probably, you know, you eagle-eyed people probably caught this and were going, Nikki, what are you doing? Because I do this stuff, but it's not life-ending by any means. But I wanted this edge visible, and it was supposed to go on the short one, but it didn't. But it's not a big deal. You still see the guinea pigs, so you know that's all good. And the twisty ties will go here. So that's what we do next. We put the little twisty tie these in because when you open it up, you don't want to see the brads. Well, you could if you wanted to, but I just wanted it covered up with fabric. You can still kind of feel it. Of course you can't because you're on the other side of the camera, but I can feel it, but you can't really see it because it's covered up by this patterned fabric. So we put these in first so that when we put the fabric on, we cover it up. So to do that, again, this is not rocket science. I have my awl, my small awl. Actually, first we have to make the little things. So I had this little piece of, this has been embossed, and I don't know, I must have, but I just didn't do it very well. And then this is this different kind of embossing up here. Who knows what I was doing that day? Or you know what, it might have been my girls helping. So yeah, we're gonna use that because that flew out of my scraps. So I'm gonna pick some cute, interesting pieces here, and I'm using, this is just my 1-inch punch, circle punch, and I'm going to get a couple of, and these ones don't matter so much, these are the back. So put that guy away, grab my art glitter glue, and I'm going to literally just glue them too deep. That does not make sense. I'm going to 2-ply, that makes more sense. One to the other, it just gives it a little bit more strength and heft, you know, to withstand the winding around it. So there's that, and here is this. And there we go. Oops, got a little scrap in there somehow. Okay, so I know that I want them like, you know, there, and you just want them somewhat level, but it really doesn't matter. You could put them, you could offset them really wide and have it be a wider wind, or like this. If you don't have these tools, like if you don't have an awl, if you don't have the circle cutter, you could always do that. If you don't have, I'm using these little brads that look like screws. If you don't have paper brads, you don't need to make this closure at all. You could just tie a piece of ribbon or twine or something around this and tie it shut. That would work as well. So ways to modify, there are many. I am going to do a windy closure. So I know this one I want about there, that looks about middle-ish this way. And then I'm going to go and poke about middle-ish and try not to poke my finger. There we go. So there's that one. And then I know that I want this one about the same distance from there and about level. Okay, there. Again, try not to poke myself, only the paper. Okay, a couple more things we're going to do. We're going to quick ink around the edges of these. Just the top edge, because you won't see the bottom edge at all. And then while I have my inker out, I'm going to ink around the edges of this. Like so. This Mod Podge really, when you put the Mod Podge and then you ink over the Mod Podge, it really accepts the ink well. You have to be careful that you don't overdo it. But it seems to dry on there pretty well. Okay, so we've got it inked. We're putting these in. I'm mostly saying this for myself because this is where I tend to start forgetting what I'm doing and get ahead of myself. I need my, if you were me, where would you have put your eyelet setter? Oh my gosh, you guys, I just had it out. Oh, my life. Oh, it's right here. It's just underneath the piece of fabric that I put over there on top of it. Okay. This I learned from Gail. It's brilliant. I've got some eyelets here. These are my like dud eyelets that I've bought, and like some of them are painted, and then when you squeeze them, the paint chips off, and I mean it might look cool for rustic journals and stuff, but sometimes it just looks messy. And these ones, these gold ones, they must have been just super cheap or something, because they do not squish very nicely. So what I'm doing is, Gail called it canceling them, which is kind of just, I guess, what I'm doing. I'm setting it, but I'm not actually setting it around anything. I'm just squeezing it shut, because what it does is make a spacer in between this and the paper. So you make a little sandwich. You take your brad and put that through, and then you put the canceled eyelet on the back, and now look, there's this little spacer here, and that'll go between that and the paper so that there's room for the string to wind around there without having to, you know, really bend and work that. So see, look at that, slick. But it doesn't make it super thick and chunky. It was brilliant. This was probably one of the most brilliant things I picked up along the way so far. This was smart. This is why I love our crafty community. Stuff like this, I learn so much. So I'm trying to just make these as flat as possible so that, you know, when we lay the fabric over the top. All right, so now we've got our windy things on, and we've inked around the edges, so it's ready to put the fabric piece on the back, the fabric that was hiding my eyelet puncher. Setter, I mean. So, like I said, I'm using my Mod Podge again. Bye-bye, 5 on a dime list. I don't need a super thick layer. This is just acting as a glue to kind of hold my fabric on, and then it's going to get sewn around the edges. Again, you don't have to sew around the edges if you don't have a sewing machine. Don't feel like you can't do this project or ones like it. Just make sure that you affix your edges really well. So if you get this done and then you're not going to sew and you go back and it's still a little edgy or lifting up around the edges a little bit, then just go ahead and you know, stick your brush in there and get a little bit more around the edges and put it down. Gotta be careful, this matte one dries kind of quickly, so by the time you've gotten to one end of it. Now this is the lining it up part, so I'm going to do it like that, and then I'm going to move this because this is sticky, and just make sure that my edges really here are the most important part. I want to make sure that my edges are lined up well. And it looks like I tore a little bit too long maybe. I don't know. We'll see when I fold it back up. But if these edges are a little too long, I'll show you a trick to make them still look frayed. You probably already know the trick because you're smart people. You're smart, crafty, talented people out there. And women, I said if you're a man that's watching my videos, let me know. But no man has ever let me know that they were watching my videos except for my husband. Hi, Ade, if you're watching. Otherwise it just says, like, my YouTube analytics say that it's almost like exclusively women, which is funny. Not funny, it's just, it's who we are, right, ladies? Okay, so I've got my twisty things here and my fabric, and so now look, it's a little long here. When I fold it up, it hits this other one, and I want it a little bit shorter. This one's fine. Look at that. Isn't that such pretty fabric? It's very kind of like vintagey 60s looking flowers or something. I like it. But I want to trim this down a little. So what I'm going to do is trim just the edge off. And it was a little uneven as well. Probably because I was just gluing like crazy. Yeah, and while I have my owl out, I'm going to go like this and kind of, you know, just zhuzh it along the edge and pull a few of those fibers up to make it look like I tore the edge. And then I'm just going to pull them off. Whichever ones I pulled up, I'm going to pull off. And then sometimes that happens, and because I cut funny, and I trim them off, and there we go. Now it looks like I ripped the edge. But I didn't. I cut it, and then I zhuzhed it with my awl. Alright. Also realize I'm doing this one backwards from this one. See how the short one is on the side here, and this one is here? But it doesn't matter. Again, it does not matter. Well, there's one place it'll matter, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what I am going to do right now is go sew around this. Actually, I'll show you what I do. Let me put that in water because I'll do all the sewing at once so I don't have to keep turning off the video. All right, guys? Okay. To create the little pocket on the back, I used my washies, and I had some somewhere in here. I think there's another piece. Yep, this is just I don't know, an offcut of some cardstock, and it looks like this is a straight edge, so I must have cut that with something good. My paper cutter, or it's my factory edge. So I'm going to line this up again as best I can. There we go. I didn't do that as best I could. Well, it's as best as I can. And then this one is going to go, come on, just over the top of that. Over the edge there. Okay. Now we'll trim the excess. You'll notice I haven't pulled out my paper trimmer yet, and I don't think I will, because this is all just the only thing I used. Whoops, the only thing I used my paper trimmer for was cutting this piece in half. Oh, got washi stuck to my fingers. This I'm just going to do with my eyes, my eyeballs. Yes, have to get quiet, guys, so I can concentrate on what I'm doing. That goes back in the scrap pile. And then this is going to be a little bit too long, like it was for the last one, but that's okay. That's what we made that little inside pocket with. So I want this to be just about fold to fold, but not quite. And it looks like that'll be there. Did you see that highly technical measuring I just did? I know. It's not for the faint of heart. And then this piece, I'm going to turn up like this, because then you get the little, see, it does, this one's going to go sideways like that, but this one I'm going to turn up this way. And then that'll be the little pocket that will go here, like so, and hide behind that little flap. Okay, so what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to put a zigzag along in between the two, okay, and then I'm going to sew around the edge of this and sew this pocket on here and sew this little pocket on here. So I'm going to go sew all of those things together, and then I will be right back. Okie doke, so I've sewn around it and I've got the pocket sewn. So now there's a pocket there and there's a little mini pocket there. So when you close it up, it looks like that now. And I also took the time to cut these tags out of their little paper and ink them, so you don't have to watch me do that because boring. And then I also cut this out from here and inked it so that could go back here as well. And then I am going to make the little insert for the inside. Oh, here's some little scraps. I'll probably put those in here. Let's see. Here's some rip strip. Oh, we'll use this to make the little collage on the inside. That must be another one. That is. Here's some little ripped papers. We'll use those for collage. And then here's some long papers. These are like offcuts from journals I've been making. And oh, that's thick. We could use that back there. I'll turn that into a little tag. You don't need to see me cut a little tag down, right? Probably not. This one's cool. Okay. So I don't even remember how many sheets I put in the last one. These, you can tell, are all the like side offcuts of my 12 by 12 pieces of paper. So those work good. That's like a perfect size for this, right? Perfect. And then these are offcuts from probably making other little notebooks or something, so we'll put those on there. And this one will need to be made shorter, so I'm gonna give it a little ripped edge on top. And then we're gonna see about there. This is not precise work. And then these I kind of liked the way they all had a rough edge in the other one. So I'm going for super rustic. So that will have a torn edge, and these should have torn edges, because why not? Oh, come on. You can always tell when you're tearing with the grain and against the grain with paper, because it's super nice to make a nice, easy to make a nice tear when you're going with the grain, but when you're going against it, man, you end up with all these chunky little pieces, like what I just did. So that I'm going to fold in half. I'm going to put a couple short pieces too. There's skinnier pieces in here. There's a skinny piece. There's a skinny piece. I think this was like a book liner. Something from the inside of a book. Give it a rough edge. Give this a rough edge. There. This should be torn down. Good. And then let's see how wide. Okay, now we're gonna see about how wide where is my fold? Right there. So about there. Yeah. So about here is where I want to tear the rest of this. Ugh. Just manhandle it. That's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to fold them all though individually in about half. And this kind of makes it even. So the edges don't all match up exactly, which is kind of what I want. I do want to make sure that the bottoms line up roughly though, so that it's, you know, I don't have stuff sticking out of my notebook, mini journal. Speaking of mini, are you guys watching Tracy Fox? If you're not a part of her Facebook group, if you're on Facebook, you should go be a part of Tracy's Facebook group. It's super fun. And she's got challenges every month, and right now the challenge for August is making it mini. And there are so many cute projects that people are doing, making mini-sized things. I'm trying to figure out what I want to make mini. Okay. So now I'm just going to line them up. And stagger my pieces here. Let's see. And that one. All right. Now I just like to flip through and make sure that I haven't put any in upside down because, oh yes, I've done that a time or two. Okay, so now we have our little like signature that's gonna go in right there. Cute, huh? So here's the only problem. Oh no, it'll work. Sorry guys, sometimes I speak too fast. So here's how I attached it. I was thinking about sewing this in, and then I decided not to, and I'm using my, look at, it's from my school. I bought this, ASC. It's a great stapler. You guys, these are great staplers. I don't know. It's called the Paper Pro One Finger 20 Sheet Power. This thing has power, and it can staple through this signature like butter. So here's what I want to do. Oh, and I want to go the other way. I'm making sure that it is lined up. And then I'm going to flip out here because I want the smooth side of the staples out here since this is where it'll show. Make sure I'm not, oh, come on. Getting all the way up here. And then, sorry if I'm getting a little bit off camera, but I want to make sure that I'm lining up my stapler to be somewhat even. Look at that thing. Did you hear the power, you guys? I don't even remember how much it cost, but it was worth every penny. This is a great stapler. Okay. There. And okay, and I'm just gonna put 2 in because that's all I'm doing. So there, I move those all around. I'm gonna give this a good fold, and then we've got our little notebook attached in here. Look at that. Cute, huh? So then the only last thing that I did was I put a little collage down in the corner because I had some rip strips in there, and I was like, why not? So, you know, you don't have to do this. You could put another pocket in here. You could put a tuck spot. I mean, you could do all kinds of things. But I glued a little collage, so we're gonna do that. We'll put a layer of cheesecloth in there somewhere. I have switched to my Beacons glue because it glues to fabric really well and it dries really quick, and it's going all over my fingers. That's not why. That's not part of why. Not because it's going all over my fingers. And then I've got cheesecloth right here. I always have cheesecloth on my desk because I just can't think of many projects that don't need cheesecloth. Can you? Probably, but not in my world. I'm gonna, since this is the top layer, I'm just gonna give it a little ink quick. Oh, I forgot to mention that I did ink around those pockets, the washi tape pockets that I made. I inked around them before I put them down. I give this one a generous layer of glue so it'll go through that cheesecloth and glue it down as well. Oops, and I got a little glue blob right there. There we go. So now we have even a cute little collage on the inside. And I want to shut it because I don't want to glue it together. Come on. All right, and then I had a piece of string. I had a couple of pieces of string. That should be good. That were like offcuts in my little scrap bin. So they seem to be just about the right length. The other one was, so let's make sure this one is, but I think it should be good to go around the windy guy closure. Oops. So I just tied a little tiny, whoops, I tied a little tiny basic knot in that one. It wasn't even a full-on, yo, look at perfect length. Oh. And then let's address the back here. So like I said before, I was just going for a few pieces of little bits and bobs to we'll close that one up like that, and we'll make it into a side fold kind of tag. I was just looking for some little bits and scraps to kind of go in the pocket that you could possibly decorate your little mini journal with. So now this is a side, you can open tag like that. And then we've got those. Let's put a rip strip in there. And here's a cool little piece of offcut that can go in there. And this little edge piece. So there, now you've got some little bits and pieces of scraps and stuff that are similar to what's in there that you could decorate with. So guys, I don't know how long this video is because of course I'm filming it in chunks, so I don't have an overall time, but it's probably long. So thanks for hanging out with me if you're still here. If you make this project, then like I said, tag me on, if you're on Instagram, or even if you're on Facebook, share it on my Facebook page, which is Musings by Nikki, which will be down in the description box below. Because I love seeing what you did. Thanks, Gina, for creating this challenge. I can't wait to see what you other lovely ladies do with this. Angela and Martina as well. Their channels and their links to the 5 on the Dime challenge for August will be down below in the description box as well. Apparently, there will be a whole wealth of things down in that description box. So if you haven't already looked, you should just go look right now because there's gonna be all kinds of fun stuff down there. So thanks guys for hanging out with me today. I will be back in the next, probably day, maybe even this afternoon. I'll shoot another video because I'm so excited to keep working on my storybook wood stuff too. So lots and lots of fun stuff now that I'm back from all my busyness. There's a short span of time here between now and the beginning of school when I can get a bunch of stuff done. No big plans. Super excited. So thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, middle of the night, whatever time it is that you're watching this on whatever corner of the globe that you live in. And until next time, I will see you soon. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye, guys.